She found him slumped against the alley wall behind the office building, his $2,000 suit jacket soaked in rain and shame, and in that moment, Nadia Chun had to choose between walking away from her boss or saving the man who'd never once learned her name. The fluorescent lights in the accounting department had been humming the same tired song for 6 hours straight, and Nadia Chen's eyes burned as she reconciled the quarterly reports for the third time that week. Her fingers flew across the keyboard with mechanical precision, the kind that came from doing the same task 1,000 times while your mind wandered to more pressing things. Like whether her daughter Lily had remembered to heat up the casserole for dinner. Like whether the landlord would accept next month's rent 3 days late. Like whether anyone in this glass tower had ever actually seen her. She glanced at the clock. 8:47. The janitorial staff had already made their first pass. Most of her coworkers had left by 6, rushing toward lives that waited for them with warm kitchens and patient families. Nadia didn't rush anymore. Rushing required somewhere urgent to be, and home was just a small apartment where an 8-year-old girl did homework alone and pretended not to mind that her mom worked late 4 nights a week. The email notification pinged. She expected another deadline extension, another urgent request that wasn't actually urgent. Instead, it was from James Whitmore's assistant. Mr. Whitmore has left for the evening. Please ensure all reports are on his desk by 7 a.m. Of course. Mr. Whitmore. The man who signed her paychecks but had never once made eye contact with her in the elevator. The CEO who everyone whispered about with a mix of admiration and fear. Brilliant. Demanding. Unreachable. Nadia saved her work and shut down her computer. Her lower back ached as she stood, a reminder that her body was 32 but felt 45. She gathered her worn purse and headed toward the elevator, her reflection in the darkened windows showing a woman who'd forgotten what it felt like to be seen. The parking garage was nearly empty. Her 10-year-old Honda sat in its usual spot on the far side, the farthest from the entrance because those spaces were always available. She was halfway across the concrete expanse when she heard it, a sound that didn't belong. Raised voices. A sharp laugh that cut through the underground echo. She should have kept walking. Should have gotten in her car and driven home to Lily. But Nadia had learned years ago that turning away from trouble didn't make you safe, it just made you complicit. She followed the sound around the corner, past the executive parking spaces with their reserved signs, toward the service exit that led to the alley. The door was propped open, cold November air rushing in, and that's when she saw him. James Whitmore. Her untouchable boss. Slumped against the brick wall like a discarded suit jacket, his hair disheveled, his tie loose, his eyes unfocused in a way that had nothing to do with the dim lighting. 2 men stood over him, their postures predatory. "Come on, man, just give us your wallet and we'll help you get home safe," one of them said, his tone mocking the word safe. James mumbled something incoherent, his hand fumbling toward his pocket. Nadia's heart hammered. Every instinct screamed at her to back away, to not get involved, to protect herself the way she'd had to protect herself for years. But she saw something in the way James's head lolled to the side, something fragile and human beneath the expensive fabric and corporate armor. She pulled out her phone and held it up, her voice steadier than she felt. "I've already called the police. They're 2 minutes away." She hadn't. But her finger hovered over the emergency call button, and her face held the kind of conviction that came from years of bluffing landlords and bill collectors. The 2 men exchanged glances. One of them swore under his breath. Then they walked away, their footsteps echoing against concrete until the sound disappeared into the city night. Nadia stood there, her phone still raised, her breath coming in short gasps. Then she looked down at James Whitmore, and he looked up at her with eyes that held something she'd never seen in the office, recognition. Not of who she was, but that she was. "You," he whispered, his voice rough. "You're accounting. 3rd floor. Close enough." Nadia crouched down beside him, keeping a safe distance but close enough to assess the damage. The smell of whiskey hit her immediately, sharp and unmistakable. His eyes struggled to focus on her face, and she could see the confusion swimming there, mixed with something darker. Shame, maybe. Or grief. "Mr. Whitmore, can you stand?" He laughed, but it came out broken. "Can't even remember the last time someone called me Mr. with actual respect." His words slurred together, but beneath the alcohol, she heard exhaustion. The kind that lived in your bones. We need to get you out of this alley, Nadia said, glancing back toward the open door. Can you tell me where you live? I can call you a car. No car. He shook his head too hard and winced. No drivers. No. Everyone's seeing. Can't let them see. She understood that. The desperate need to keep your falling apart private. To not let the world witness your weakness. Okay, she said softly. Then let me help you to my car. You can sober up a bit, and we'll figure it out from there. He looked at her then, really looked at her, and something shifted in his unfocused gaze. Why? Why what? Why help me? I don't even know your name. The word should have stung, but Nadia had stopped expecting to be known years ago. It's Nadia. Nadia Chun. And I'm helping you because someone should. It took 15 minutes to get him to her car. He was a tall man, and deadweight in his current state, leaning heavily against her as they shuffled across the parking garage. Her shoulders screamed under his weight, but she held firm. She'd carried heavier burdens with less help. She got him into the passenger seat, buckled him in like she did with Lily, and sat behind the wheel, her hands trembling now that the adrenaline was fading. Her phone showed 6 missed calls from her daughter. Her heart clenched. She dialed quickly. Lily, baby, I'm so sorry. Something came up at work. It's okay, Mom. Her daughter's voice was small but practiced in disappointment. I'm doing my math homework. I'll be home in an hour. Maybe less. There's ice cream in the freezer, you can have some. Really? A spark of joy, so easily kindled. Really? I love you. Love you too, Mom. She hung up and sat in the silence, James Whitmore breathing heavily beside her. She should take him home. Drop him at his address and forget this ever happened. But she didn't know his address, and he was in no state to tell her. My apartment is 20 minutes away, she said, more to herself than him. You can sober up there. Drink some coffee. Then I'll call you a car. He didn't respond, his head tilted against the window. The drive was quiet except for the sound of rain starting to fall, tapping against the windshield like questions she didn't want to answer. What was she doing? Why was she bringing her drunk boss to her apartment? This was every HR violation wrapped into one terrible decision. But she thought about those men in the alley. About how easily the night could have gone differently. About how sometimes being seen, even in your worst moment, was the difference between drowning and surviving. Her apartment building looked shabbier in the rain, the paint peeling, the hallway light on the second floor still flickering like it had been for 3 months. She helped James up the stairs, each step a negotiation with gravity. A neighbor's door cracked open, curiosity burning behind the gap, then closed quickly. Inside her apartment, Lily sat at the small kitchen table, her math book open, her eyes wide as Nadia walked in with a strange man in an expensive suit. Mom. It's okay, honey. This is Mr. Whitmore. He works with me. He's not feeling well, so he's going to sit for a bit while I make coffee. Lily's eyes moved between them, reading the situation with the sharp intelligence of a child who'd learned early to assess danger. Should I go to my room? Just for a little while. Take your ice cream. Lily nodded, scooped a bowl quickly, and disappeared down the short hallway, glancing back once before closing her door. Nadia guided James to the worn couch, the same couch she bought secondhand 5 years ago, and recovered herself with fabric from a clearance bin. He sank into it, his head falling back, his eyes closing. She stood in her tiny kitchen, making coffee in the machine that sometimes worked and sometimes didn't, and wondered what version of tomorrow she'd wake up to. The version where he fired her for seeing him this way? Or the version where he pretended tonight never happened? You have a daughter. His voice startled her. His eyes were open now, clearer, watching her. Yes. How old? 8. He was quiet for a long moment. I had a daughter once. The past tense hung in the air like smoke. Nadia poured coffee into a chipped mug and brought it to him, sitting on the opposite end of the couch, maintaining distance but offering presence. Had she asked gently. He took the coffee, his hand steadier now. She died. 2 years ago. Car accident. She was 16. The words fell between them, heavy and irreversible. Nadia's breath caught. I'm so sorry. Everyone's sorry. He stared into the coffee. Sorry doesn't bring her back. Sorry doesn't stop me from coming to work every day and pretending I'm still a person. Sorry doesn't fill the space where she used to be. Nadia didn't offer platitudes. She'd lost Lily's father to his own choices, to addiction and abandonment, and she knew that some losses didn't have comforting words attached. Sometimes people just needed to sit in their pain with someone who wouldn't look away. Her name was Grace, he continued, his voice cracking. And I was at a board meeting when it happened. A meeting that could have been an email. I chose work over dinner with her that night. I chose wrong, and I don't get to choose again. The rain grew heavier outside, drumming against the windows in a rhythm that felt like the world giving them permission to be honest. James Whitmore sat on her second-hand couch, his expensive suit wrinkled and damp, holding a chipped mug, and for the first time since Nadia had known of his existence, he looked human. I started drinking 6 months after the funeral, he said, his voice low. Just at night. Just enough to sleep. Then it was just enough to get through dinner alone. Then it was just enough to forget what her laugh sounded like. He looked at Nadia, his eyes red-rimmed. Tonight was the worst it's been. I finished a bottle in my office after everyone left. I thought I could walk it off. I thought. You don't have to explain, Nadia said softly. But I do. He set the coffee down, his hands clasped between his knees. Because you saved me tonight. Not just from those men. From myself. And you didn't have to. I didn't even know your name. You know it now. Nadia Chun. He said it carefully, like he was committing it to memory. 3rd floor. Accounting. You stay late 4 nights a week. You bring lunch in a blue container. You're always the last one to leave your floor. She stared at him. You noticed that? I notice more than people think. I just stopped letting anyone know I was paying attention. It was easier than caring. Down the hallway, Lily's door cracked open slightly. Nadia could feel her daughter's presence, listening, assessing whether this stranger was safe. She caught Lily's eye and smiled, a silent reassurance. Lily emerged slowly, still holding her empty ice cream bowl, her hair in 2 braids that Nadia had done that morning before work. She approached cautiously, standing near the kitchen, her eyes on James. Are you feeling better? Lily asked, her voice small but brave. James looked at her, and something in his expression shattered and rebuilt itself simultaneously. I am. Thank you for asking. My mom's good at helping people feel better. She helped me when I had the flu last month. I threw up 7 times, and she didn't even get mad. Despite everything, Nadia laughed. Lily, I don't think Mr. Whitmore needs to know about that. It's okay. James's lips curved into something that almost resembled a smile. 7 times is impressive. Lily grinned, encouraged. Do you have kids? The silence that followed was delicate, fragile. Nadia started to intervene, but James spoke first. I did. A daughter. She would have been 18 now. She was a lot like you, brave and honest. Lily processed this with the straightforward logic of childhood. Did she die? Lily, Nadia started. It's okay, James said again, his voice thick. Yes, she did. 2 years ago. I'm sorry, Lily said simply. My dad left when I was 4. It's not the same, but it's also kind of empty, you know? Like there's supposed to be someone there, but there's just space. James's eyes glistened. He nodded slowly. Yes. Exactly like that. Nadia watched this exchange, this impossible moment where her daughter and her boss found common ground in loss, and felt something shift in her chest. The protective walls she'd built, the assumption that people in glass towers didn't understand struggle, began to crack. Can I show you something? James asked Lily. Lily looked to Nadia, who nodded. James reached into his pocket and pulled out his wallet. From inside, he removed a photograph, worn at the edges from handling. A girl with dark hair and bright eyes, laughing at the camera. This is Grace. This was her at 15, at her birthday party. She'd just gotten her learner's permit. She was so excited to drive. Lily studied the photo with reverence. She's really pretty. She looks happy. She was. His voice broke. She really was. Lily handed the photo back carefully. I think it's good you still carry her picture. My mom says the people we love don't really leave us. They just become part of how we see the world. James looked at Nadia, his eyebrows raised in question. Nadia shrugged, feeling exposed. I tell her that about her father. It's easier than explaining abandonment to an 8-year-old. It's not just easy, James said quietly. It's true. The coffee pot beeped, signaling it had finished brewing. Nadia stood to refill James's cup, but he waved her off. I should go. I've imposed enough. He stood, steadier now, the alcohol working its way through his system. Can I call a car from here? Of course. While he arranged his ride, Nadia walked Lily back to her room. Time for bed, baby. School tomorrow. Mom. Lily whispered at her doorway. Is he going to be okay? Nadia looked back at James, standing in her small living room, looking at the photos on her wall, snapshots of birthday parties and school plays, a life built from scraps and love. I think he might be. Eventually. Good. He seems sad. But also nice. Sad and nice can exist together, right? Yes, sweetheart. They can. She tucked Lily in, kissed her forehead, and returned to find James staring at a photo of Nadia and Lily at the beach, both of them wind-blown and laughing, the ocean stretching behind them. When was this? He asked. Last summer. We saved for 6 months for that weekend trip. It was the first time Lily had seen the ocean. She looks like you. She's braver than me. I doubt that. He turned to face her fully. You saved me tonight, Nadia. Not just from those men in the alley. From myself. From forgetting that there are still people in the world who choose kindness when they don't have to. You would have done the same. I'd like to think so. But honestly, I don't know. I've spent 2 years not seeing anyone. Not really. He paused, his hand on the doorframe. My car's 3 minutes away. But before I go, I need you to know something. Tomorrow, when I see you at work, I'm not going to pretend this didn't happen. I'm not going to look away or forget your name again. You deserve better than that. You've always deserved better than that. Nadia's throat tightened. You don't have to. I do. Because you showed me something tonight. You showed me that it's possible to carry unbearable weight and still have room to help someone else. That's not weakness. That's strength I forgot existed. The car horn beeped outside. James extended his hand. Not as a boss. As an equal. Thank you, Nadia-chan, for seeing me when I couldn't see myself. She shook his hand, his grip warm and firm. Thank you for not making me regret stopping. He smiled then, a real smile, sad but genuine. See you tomorrow? See you tomorrow. She watched from her window as he got into the black car, as it pulled away into the rainy night, taillights disappearing around the corner. Her apartment felt different now. Not bigger, but less small. Not richer, but less poor. Her phone buzzed. An email from James Whitmore, sent at 11:47 p.m. Nadia, I meant what I said. Tomorrow, and every day after. You're no longer invisible. And neither am I. Thank you for that gift. J.W. She read it twice, then a third time, then sat on her couch in the quiet apartment and let herself cry. Not from sadness. From relief. From the startling realization that sometimes the people we save end up saving us right back. In the morning, everything would be different. But different didn't mean worse. Different meant possibility. Different meant two people who'd been lost in their own ways had found a moment of connection in the dark, and tomorrow they'd see if that moment could survive the light. Nadia arrived at work at 7:15, her usual time, her nerves humming with uncertainty. She'd barely slept, replaying the night over and over, wondering if James had meant what he said or if sobriety would bring back the walls. She settled at her desk, opened her computer, and tried to focus on the spreadsheets that always needed attention. The office filled slowly, co-workers arriving with coffee cups and morning complaints about traffic. At 8:30, her desk phone rang. The number on the screen made her heart jump. "This is Nadia." "Nadia, this is James Whitmore. Could you come to my office, please?" His tone was professional, unreadable. She stood, her legs unsteady, and rode the elevator to the executive floor. The doors opened to polished marble and floor-to-ceiling windows that looked out over the city. She'd been up here exactly twice in 3 years. James's assistant smiled at her. "He's expecting you. Go right in." She knocked once and entered. James stood at his window, wearing a fresh suit, his hair perfectly styled, every trace of last night's vulnerability erased by expensive grooming and morning light. For a moment, Nadia's heart sank. This was it. He'd called her up to pay her off, to make sure she stayed quiet, to reassert the distance between their worlds. Then he turned around and smiled. Not a corporate smile. A real one. The kind that reached his eyes and made them warm. "Nadia, thank you for coming up." He gestured to the chair across from his desk. "Please sit." She sat, her hands folded in her lap. "I want to start by apologizing," he said, sitting across from her, no desk between them. "For 3 years, you've worked on the 3rd floor, stayed late, done excellent work, and I never once acknowledged that. I told myself I was busy, focused, dedicated. But the truth is I was hiding. From grief, from people, from life. Mr. Whitmore, you don't." "James, please." "And I do." He leaned forward, his hands clasped. "Last night, you saved me. And this morning, I woke up with the first clear head I've had in months. I made coffee. I ate breakfast. I looked at Grace's picture and smiled instead of breaking. And I realized something." He paused, his eyes locked on hers. "I realized that I don't want to be the person who forgets your name anymore. Not yours, not anyone's. I don't want to hide behind work and pretend that's living. Grace wouldn't want that for me. And you reminded me of that." Nadia's eyes burned. "I just did what anyone would do. But not everyone did. You did. And that matters." He reached into his drawer and pulled out a folder. "I looked at your file this morning. You've been here 3 years. You've never missed a deadline. You've never taken a sick day. You're raising a daughter alone, and somehow, you're still the most reliable person in this building." He slid the folder across. "I'm promoting you to senior accountant, effective immediately. 20% raise, better benefits, and I'm approving your request for flexible hours so you can be there when Lily gets home from school." Nadia stared at the papers, her vision blurring. "I never put in a request for flexible hours." "Then consider this me reading between the lines." His expression softened. "You showed me that it's possible to care about people again. To see them. Let me show you that sometimes, kindness doesn't go unnoticed. It just takes the right person paying attention." She looked up at him, this man who 12 hours ago had been a stranger in a suit, and saw someone different. Someone trying. Someone healing. "I don't know what to say." "Say you'll have coffee with me sometime. Not boss and employee. Just two people who understand what it's like to keep going when everything hurts. Two people trying to remember how to be human." Nadia laughed through tears. "I'd like that." "Good." He stood, extending his hand again. "Thank you, Nadia. For last night. For today. For reminding me that some things are worth saving. Including myself." She shook his hand, and this time, it felt like a beginning. 6 months later, Nadia sat in James's office, though it felt less like an office now and more like a space where conversations happened. Real ones. They'd fallen into a rhythm. Coffee on Thursday mornings before the office filled, talking about everything and nothing. Lily had started calling him Mr. James, and he'd started showing up to her school plays. It wasn't romantic. Not yet. Maybe not ever. But it was real. It was two people who'd been drowning alone learning to float together. It was understanding without judgment. It was showing up. Lily has a soccer game Saturday, Nadia said, reviewing reports on her tablet. She asked if you'd come. James looked up from his laptop, surprised. She did. She's been practicing her penalty kicks. She wants to show you. He smiled, that same real smile that had become familiar. I'll be there. You don't have to. I want to. If that's okay. Nadia met his eyes. In them, she saw something she'd given up hoping for years ago. She saw someone who saw her. Not as an employee. Not as a convenience. As a person. As Nadia. It's more than okay. Outside the window, the city stretched in all directions, full of people who didn't know each other's names, who passed each other every day without seeing. But in this office, in this moment, two of those people had found each other in the dark and decided to stay found. And that was enough. That was everything. What's the bravest act of kindness you've ever done for a stranger? Share your story in the comments. You might inspire someone else to take that chance.